Coming up next on At Your Service, we will be discussing school readiness in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Today on At Your Service, we will be discussing early childhood and school readiness with the coordinator of early childhood and school readiness, Trish Saynuk. Welcome, Ms. Saynuk.
Hello, I'm Trish Saynuk. I'm the coordinator of early childhood education and school readiness. Prior to becoming coordinator, I taught pre-K, kindergarten, and worked in grades 1 through 5.
Awesome.
Then I was a resource teacher, and I worked with our pre-K and kindergarten teachers in the classrooms throughout the county.
So for the viewing audience, Trish, can you talk a little bit, what does early childhood consist of?
In Anne Arundel County Public Schools, our early childhood programs consist of pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Our pre-kindergarten programs start when children are 4 years old, on or by September 1st, and our kindergarten programs are for children that are 5, on or by September 1st of the year that they start school.
Awesome. So when we talk about early childhood, does every school in Anne Arundel County have an early childhood program?
Every elementary school has a kindergarten program. However, only 46 of our elementary schools have a pre-kindergarten program.
Okay.
So would that be like half of our elementary schools, approximately?
Approximately half.
Okay.
And how do we determine which schools have an early childhood program?
In Maryland, pre-kindergarten is considered an intervention program. So when placing early childhood programs in Anne Arundel County, we looked at Title I status of our schools and determined which of our schools had the most need to have a pre-kindergarten program.
Could you explain to the audience what you mean when you say Title I?
So it would be the percentage of families and students in the school that receive free and reduced meals.
Okay.
And so aside from just, Title I, are there other components about locations so that you would have maybe pre-K in clusters around the county?
So we made sure that we have pre-K opportunities available throughout Anne Arundel County. The majority of our programs are in Annapolis, North County, Glen Burnie, but we do have some all the way from Belgrove to Cary-Wheaton, which is in South County.
And when we talk about pre-K, now at each of those 46 schools, does the pre-K program look the same, or are there differences depending on the school?
There are differences depending on the school. All of our school-wide Title I schools have full-day pre-kindergarten programs, which follow the regular hours of the school. The remaining schools have half-day pre-kindergarten programs with a morning and an afternoon session that parents can select from to best meet their schedule.
Great, thank you.
So can we talk a little bit about the focus of early childhood, if you could address, the focus of pre-K and then the focus of kindergarten, and what are, your main focus, and how does that support students?
So in pre-kindergarten, our focus is really preparing children to be ready to start kindergarten, ready to learn. So we focus primarily on the whole child, language arts instruction, mathematics instruction, science and social studies, physical development, as well as the social emotional component. We do put a heavy emphasis in pre-kindergarten on oral language development, having children be able to speak in complete sentences and be able to express their wants and their needs.
Awesome.
And so it's just building upon that to kindergarten.
Yes, and in kindergarten, we follow in Maryland the Maryland College and Career Readiness Standards for kindergarten. Again, our kindergarten program teaches the whole child, so we do have standards and instruction in language arts, which includes listening and speaking, reading and writing, as well as mathematics. Our focus in mathematics is on numbers and building sets, and with supporting elements of geometry such as shapes and measurement. We also discuss science and social studies topics that are age appropriate for our youngest learners, as well as social, emotional, and physical development.
Okay.
And so as an early educator and a leader in that area, why do you think we should focus on early childhood, and why has our county and the state determined that this is an area of focus?
So in Maryland, they are looking to become a pre-K to 12th grade state. They realize that for many of our children, they are not coming to school ready to learn. Our current state assessment data for kindergarten readiness shows us that. In Anne Arundel County, only about 46% of our students are coming to school ready to learn. So therefore, we're placing our emphasis on our pre-kindergarten students that may not have the opportunity to have a Maryland accredited high quality pre-kindergarten prior to coming to school that their parents would have to pay for.
So if I was a parent and I had an early childhood at home, what are some of the things that you would want parents to work on? Like, what are some of the things that they happen to participate in that pre-K classroom?
So having your child be ready to come into pre-K, there's certain things that you really need to understand about our program. We are staffed with 2 adults at all times in our pre-kindergarten program. However, we do expect our students to demonstrate age-appropriate independent skills. So we expect our students to be independent with all of their toileting skills.
Okay.
Our programs do not have naps, so we need to have our children be able to attend for that full time frame, but still get their suggested 10 hours of sleep at night. So we really need to have an established bedtime routine with the children getting adequate sleep. Our programs do provide lunch and breakfast in our full day programs. In our half day programs, we do have opportunity for snack as well. Parents in the summer before students start pre-kindergarten can start with having students follow simple 1- and 2-step directions, take part in simple routines, help parents set the table, match the socks, just activities that would develop listening and being able to follow the directions that are given.
Interesting.
So can you tell us, I know under early childhood and school readiness, we have Judy Centers. Can you tell us a little bit about what a Judy Center is and then how that can support students and families in Arundel?
The Judy Centers are named after Judith P. Hoyer, who was Senator Steny Hoyer's late wife. They are funded through the Maryland State Department of Education and therefore are grant-funded programs that can only support the families living in the designated school catchment area. Currently, we have a Judy Center at Hilltop Elementary School and at Belgrove Elementary School in our North County area. The Judy Center is a slightly different program than public school as it does not provide direct services to students. The Judy Center is designed to provide services to families and their young children, and we work with families from pregnancy all the way to the end of kindergarten. As an umbrella service, we work with our partners such as the Department of Social Services, WIC, the Public Library, Parks and Recreation, to help families fulfill all of the needs that they may have so that their child is able to be ready for school when they enter school.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly, because I've known about the Judy Centers. So let's say at Hilltop, if I live in that area, then I can, as a family, apply to be a participant
Yes.
and access those services.
Yes.
And it's really just for the families.
It is for the families. We do have what we call play and learn groups.
Okay.
The purpose of the play and learn groups is an opportunity for parents to receive skills through modeling with our Judy Center staff and materials so that they can work with their child at home. They bring their child and they stay with their child during play and learn groups, and following the directions of our Judy Center staff, engage with their children in age-appropriate educational activities. We also have evening events once or twice a month that focus on a certain area of learning, such as language arts or mathematics, but in a fun, engaging environment so that our children are engaged throughout the session.
Sounds like an awesome opportunity for families. And so, you know, when you think about the Judy Centers and the services are for families and they're located at the elementary schools, how are our staff, you know, are there counselors there? Are there teachers there? And so they're directly working with the parents,
Yes.
not so much the students.
So our Judy Center staff consists of a program manager who oversees grant operations, the writing of the grant, the day-to-day ins and outs of the Judy Center. They also schedule all of the events and work with families to make sure they're able to access the correct services. We have a family service coordinator who works individually with the families through case management meetings, making sure that they have all of the skills and services that they need in order to be school ready. They might drive the families to meetings that they need, pediatricians appointments, help them access social services that they need, help with resume writing, job skill classes, finding a GED or an English language course.
So it's not specifically like my child needs more, you know, listening skills. It could really be those wraparound services.
Yes, it's wraparound services, and we are a 12-month program at the Judy Center, so we run all summer as well.
So can you tell the audience again, what Where are Judy Centers located, and how many of them are there?
Currently, we have two
Okay.
located at Hilltop Elementary School and Belgrove Elementary
Okay,
School.
awesome. And how many families would you say access? Do we have a number of?
So at Hilltop Elementary School, we're looking at somewhere around, on average, between 100 and 110 families.
Oh, wow, okay.
At Belgrove, which is a much smaller elementary school, we are, however, accessing about 80 families.
Okay. And does your child have to go to that school or
Your
live in
child-
that community
Yes,
to
you have
access
to live
it?
in that
Okay.
community.
Okay, great.
And so, because it seems to be a grant-funded program, and we're partnered, Anne Arundel County is partnered with community agencies, is there any discussion about expansion of the Judy Center opportunities for other constituents in different parts of our system?
So currently, all the grant funds from MSDE
Okay.
are allotted to all of the counties.
Okay.
There is a movement to increase the number of Judy Centers, but that is state budget pending.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
So you had mentioned earlier about one of the focuses of early childhood is social emotional learning. Can you tell us about any of the social emotional learning initiatives or things that teachers are focusing on in pre-K or kindergarten?
Currently in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, we are focusing on what is called CEFL. CEFL stands for Center for Social Foundations for Early Learning. And we are training all of our pre-kindergarten and kindergarten staff members in those techniques. We're focusing on friendship skills, problem solving, having a solution to a problem that is appropriate, focusing on anger management and how to deal with anger, and having children being able to identify their own feelings in their self and in others.
Awesome.
Wow. That's a huge initiative, and I know that we talk about that being a life skill, is social emotional learning, and it really is the underpinning for academic development and success. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, are there any home tie-ins with CEFL that parents could be practicing at home? Or?
We have 2 trainers in our county through our preschool special education program that run positive solutions for parenting programs that allow our parents to receive the parent version of CEFL training. We are also at our schools where we're rolling out CEFL this year, sending home the backpack letters so that the parents are aware of the language we're using in the classroom and the skills that we're teaching.
Okay.
That's important to have that common language, so that they're understanding everything from the classroom, and then you're reinforcing that at home with the little ones. So that's critical.
Awesome. So if parents were interested in enrolling in pre-K or in a Judy Center program, what would be some first initial contacts that they would make?
So for our Judy Center programs, you would just call either Belgrove or Hilltop Elementary School and ask to speak to the Judy Center staff, and the staff will help you enroll. For pre-kindergarten, we kick off all of our enrollment application processes in February, usually on the second Tuesday of the month, but we continue accepting applications throughout the spring and summer and even into the school year. Again, students have to be 4 on or by September 1st, and if you're on a kindergarten waiver, which means you are waiving your right to attend kindergarten even though you're age eligible, you cannot attend our public pre-kindergarten programs. Parents would need to come to the school with 2 proofs of residency, their child's birth certificate, as well as any shot records or IEP documentation that they might have. If they're applying under income eligibility, they'll need to have a copy of their 1040, their food stamp award letter, or their temporary cash assistance award letter.
Great, and we're going to take a break right now, but maybe when we get back, we could talk more about that registration process and get into some more details on what, any kind of communications that will be coming out for pre-K parents and kindergarten parents. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a few minutes, so please stay tuned.
The new kindergarten, first, and second grade curriculums are designed to engage students in a variety of learning opportunities that involve collaboration, conversation, and creativity. One learning block that is devoted to movement and healthy minds and bodies supports a cooperative classroom and a feeling of connectedness. In Move, 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 Healthy Minds and Bodies, activities support oral language development and prepare the brain for new information. The use of repetition and movement offers an opportunity to review content across various learning blocks. The positive effects of physical activity on the young brain provides a focus and a readiness to learn.
Ready?
Ask your child how Move, Move, Move helped them learn today.
Home run!
Excellent, boys and girls.
Welcome back. As we were talking before break, Ms. Saynuk, we were talking about registration process and you were giving us some information. Can you give us some more detailed information on the pre-K registration process first and then the kindergarten process after that? Because I know there's some differences in times and requirements.
So our pre-kindergarten registration kicks off in February and continues throughout the spring and summer. The first step in applying for pre-K is determining what your home school would be based on where you live. If you're not sure of your home school, you can either call the Early Childhood and School Readiness Office and we'll assist you, or use the Locate Your School feature on the AACPS website. Once you determine your home school, you'll need to find out if that location actually has a pre-kindergarten program and if it's a full day or a half-day program. If your home school does not have a pre-K or you have a half-day program at your home school and would prefer to have a full-day program, you can certainly apply at another school. Just understand that you will have to provide your own transportation to and from that location. Prior to applying at the school, please call the school to find out when they have registration hours. Many of our elementary schools do not accept registration during arrival and dismissal time for student safety, because we can't have parents coming in and out of the office while we're trying to make sure our children are getting safely to their classroom and getting safely home from school. When you come to your registration appointment or during our open registration hours at the school, please make sure you have your child's birth certificate and your 2 proof of residency. Again, if you're going to be applying under our economic need, you're going to need a copy of your most recent 1040, your most recent supplemental food stamp award letter, or your most recent temporary cash assistance award letter. Supplemental food stamp award letters and temporary cash assistance award letters must be issued from Anne Arundel County. For pre-kindergarten, we do not accept families that live outside of Anne Arundel County Public Schools, so we don't accept out-of-county students as well. Pre-kindergarten application, you'll go to the school, you'll fill out the form. You can apply at more than one school to increase your chances of being accepted, and you'll find out your acceptance in July. If you are not applying under economic need, you may not find out until August 15th or September 15th. We have 3 categories of enrollment for pre-kindergarten. Our first category enrollment is families that qualify for free and reduced meals. They have priority at any of our given schools, as well as homeless students. Our Tier 2 students, or Category 2 students, are students that are English language learners or have an active IEP. If you're applying as an active IEP student, you'll need a copy of your current IEP, or you can ask the school to pull it up within the system. If your child has participated in our infants and toddlers or community-based services special education program, we do ask that you inform the school so that they can pull your student identification number so that you're not in our system twice. All other applicants are in our Category 3, and they're notified in September if space remains in the program. Space is limited in our pre-kindergarten programs because we have 2 adults in each classroom, a teacher and instructional assistant, as well as any temporary support assistance that individual students might need. We tend to cap our enrollment at 20 students based on Code of Maryland regulations.
Great. And how about kindergarten? How does that differ?
So kindergarten is a little different. Kindergarten is in all of our elementary schools with the exception of Manor View, Pershing Hill, and George Cromwell. The students that go to those schools, their kindergarten program for George Cromwell is housed at Ferndale Early Childhood Education Center. And Pershing Hill and Manor View, those students are at our Westmead Early Childhood Education Center. You would just find your home school for kindergarten, and you're going to need to again call the school to find out the registration hours. You're going to need a copy of your child's birth certificate, and you're going to need your 2 proofs of residence as well.
You had mentioned earlier about the class sizes, having 2 instructional people in the classroom, and they were capped at 20. How many typically will you find, how many classrooms of pre-K will you find in a comprehensive elementary school? Is it just 1 classroom?
So it really depends on the school.
Okay.
Some of our schools have up to 4 full-day pre-kindergarten programs, and some have 1 full-day pre-kindergarten program, and some have 1 morning and 1 afternoon session for our half-day programs. It primarily just depends on the space that's available in the school, as we have gradually increased the number of programs throughout the last couple of years.
How about transportation? So you had mentioned that you know, you'd have to provide your own transportation if you don't live in that area. But if you did, do they provide buses? And if I'm a parent, and this is my first child going to pre-K or kindergarten, what does that look like? How does the school support them, especially with a half day?
So if you are living in the school's attendance area in the designated transportation bus zone, you will have a bus to and from school. Families receive a letter in the mail over the summer that let them know that their classroom teacher, when they will start, we start on a staggered entrance schedule. So the first couple days of school is a chance to meet your child's teacher, find out what bus your child will ride, inform the teacher of any needs that you may have of your child, especially any fears that you're aware of, such as clowns or dogs or bees, so the teacher can make adjustments. And then we start our students in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten off in a small group, so 8 or 9 students over 3 days, so they get used to the routines and the procedures. We understand children are often a little scared to come to school, so this provides a smaller classroom environment so that they can get their teacher and their new classmates in a much smaller and less overwhelming experience.
I like that.
Thank you. And let me ask one more follow-up. With when we think about the first week of school, how does that look different for a pre-K student and a kindergarten student than other students in elementary school?
So we spend a lot of time at the beginning of the school year with our pre-kindergarten and kindergarten students, building that relationship, which is so important to learning, making sure that the teacher gets a chance to get to know the child and that the child gets to understand how school works. So one of the first things we focus on is how do we use the bathroom in school, where it's located, how do we ask, how we follow the routines and procedures of school, how we eat in the cafeteria, how we get on and off the bus. What does the fire drill mean? How do we act when we hear the alarm, so that our children are prepared and ready to learn? And we usually spend about the first 3 weeks of school focusing on those different aspects.
Do they have a different schedule that first week?
Just the conferences and the staggered entrances,
okay.
but they would attend for their full session, whether it's a half day or full day.
Got it. Thank you.
That's fantastic, because it's really meeting the needs of those little learners, just being the first time. Can you talk a little bit about early admission?
So if a family has a child that is not 5 by September on or by September 1st, so if your child's birth date is September 1st, you are age eligible to attend kindergarten. So for our families with children born between September 1st and October 15th of that kindergarten year, they can apply for early admission to kindergarten. What they would do is they would go to their home school. They would again have to bring their 2 proofs of residency so they could see that the child does live in Anne Arundel County. We don't test for other districts or private schools. And we also need a copy of the child's birth certificate so that we make sure the child is age eligible to test for early admission. Then they would fill out their application. After they fill out the application, within 5 business days, they'll receive a phone call from staff here at Central Office to schedule early admission testing in the summer. We test starting in the last week of June and go all the way to the end of July. We test in a small group of 4 students with 1 test examiner and 1 instructional assistant. Students are tested in a variety of skills and subject matter. It is a standardized assessment, so we can't give details of specific questions, but we can provide parents with an overview of the assessment. We talk about letter ID, letter sounds, simple consonant, vowel, consonant word reading, matching pictures to words. We read stories to the students, and they have to answer listening comprehension questions that are directly found in the text. We have simple mathematics concepts, numeral identification, how many objects are in a set, the names of different shapes that the students will answer, and then a section that's called the environment, which is really basic science and social studies concepts that we would expect students entering school to know, such as given a picture of a cat, a dog, and the American flag, which one is the symbol of the United States. Another question might be a picture of a fish and a duck and a flower, which one is a plant, and the student would circle, obviously, the flower, because that would be the plant. After the assessment is done, the test examiner scores the test. We do currently give the CSAT 2, which is normed for the fall of kindergarten, so what we're expecting children to know in the fall of their kindergarten year. Students need to score a score of an 8 or a 9 on the assessment to be granted early admission into kindergarten. If a parent is dissatisfied with their test results, they can appeal to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. They have 5 days to appeal the decision, and it must be sent by a U.S. mail.
Okay. And if I'm a parent and my child's born between those dates, what would be some things for me to consider if I was contemplating whether to actually go and have my child tested for early admission?
Right.
So early admission to kindergarten is a very serious decision, and it affects their entire school career. You'll have to be aware that your child could be up to a year older than the other student, a year younger, I apologize, than the other students in his or her classroom. Also, thinking about your child's social emotional skills, many children, while academically ready, still need a nap or still have difficulty taking turns and sharing, still have difficulty with the long kindergarten school day and the expectations of sitting on the carpet for up to 20-25 minutes and attending to the teacher, and also working independently and being independently in their self-care skills as well.
So if a parent was contemplating this decision, they could consult with your office to help them in making that decision?
Yes, they could consult with me, or they could visit their local elementary school and talk to the principal and perhaps take a tour to see what kindergarten is. Kindergarten has changed dramatically in the last several years, especially with the introduction of the Maryland College and Career Readiness Standards. Once more of a play, social experience, has become much more academic.
Definitely, and it's really about that whole child, so looking at the facets of your child, and not just the academic, the cognitive, the social, the independence, some of those, life skills. And so one of the other things that I would like you to talk a little bit about is the waiver process.
Yes. So if your child is age eligible for kindergarten, but you don't feel he or she is socially, emotionally, or academically ready, you can apply for a 1-year K waiver. When you fill out the waiver, which is available on our website, aacps.org, under Early Childhood, you fill out the waiver, you say what your home school is, and a brief description about why you're asking for the waiver. You sign the waiver and send it in via U.S. mail. The signed waiver will be returned back to you. You need to keep that and take it with you when you apply to kindergarten the following year. Kindergarten is a mandatory program in the state of Maryland, so if you do apply for and are granted a kindergarten waiver, you cannot go immediately into first grade the following year. Also, children on a kindergarten waiver cannot attend our public pre-kindergarten because our public pre-kindergarten is governed by state regulations that does not allow it.
Interesting.
So if you were to give as we talk about pre-K or K, could you give a few tips for like reading in terms of things that they should be trying to help their child with in reading at home, or things that they should be working on, whether it's writing their name or letter identification? What are some pre-K, K tips you would give for reading?
So for pre-kindergarten and reading, having your child be able to listen to a story for about 5 to 10 minutes that you read to them. Also being able to ask simple questions about the story, what happened, who the characters were, and be able to point to the illustrations and talk about the pictures in the story. Also being able to, when you write their name, be able to identify that that is their name and be able to know their first and last name. So, and for kindergarten, being able to recognize their name in print, being able to write their name appropriately, and by appropriately I mean capital letter for the first letter of their name and the rest being all lowercase. Also being able to listen to a story and answer some questions about that. The rest of the reading skills we'll cover within the classroom, but these are just things that parents can do at home to prepare their child for school.
Well, I just wanted to thank you today, Ms. Saynuk. I think the information that you have given to the community is really worthwhile, and it's great for the parents and the families at home. And I just want to thank you for tuning in to At Your Service. See you next time.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Porter. And the Arundel County Public Schools Department of Transportation is raising the level of awareness for the safety of your children as we transport them to and from school. When a school bus stops to load students, as a driver, this is what you will see. At 150 feet, the bus will activate hazard lights. At 100 feet, the bus driver will activate the amber lights. They will start slowing down. At 10 feet before the bus stops, they will turn on the red bus lights. Their stop sign will come out, and students will begin to load. Once all students are on board safely, the bus driver will turn off red lights and move forward. At this time, it is safe for the motorist to resume movement.